starting to think maybe I need to work out a little bit more. I'm getting soft. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm doing another Gladiator install video today. This is actually a pretty big one, the biggest one I've done so far on the Gladiator, and that is going to be installing my new decked drawer system that goes in the bed of the truck. You'll see in a moment when I start to break this thing open, but this is a full bed system toolbox, so it's going to take up most of the bed. It has a ton of storage, it has some side compartments, and one main drawer system that rolls in and out for you to keep things inside. So besides this just being a pretty awesome product in general, and most likely it's going to be perfect for my needs, a second reason why I'm a big fan of this product is because it is made in the USA. They actually have a few factories in the United States, but one of their main distribution and manufacturing centers is actually here in Ohio, and that's where I'm from. So it's kind of cool to be able to support a local Ohio business and an American-made product like this. I'll say this right off the bat, not a sponsored video, and also this thing is pretty freaking expensive. I think it came out to around 1,800 bucks with a couple of extras I got. I'm trying to build this Gladiator perfect the first time. I had so many iterations of my TJ that I just want to kind of spend the money up front on the Gladiator and just do one and done. It's time to move on to the first step. I'm going to spin the camera around and let you guys see this. You'll want to take the left and right side assemblies and set them how I have them here. And then you'll want to make sure that this little bolt here is facing toward the tailgate side of your vehicle. And you want to make sure that you have both of them that way. Then you'll need the bag labeled nuts and bolts. There are 4 nuts and bolts in here and they are 1 inch long. Once you have the nuts and bolts, you're going to take one and insert it here. And then on the front side of this, you'll insert it here, and you'll do the same thing on the opposite one, except it'll be kind of opposite. On the front side of this one, the bolt will be on the lower spot, and then on the back side, it'll be in the higher spot. So now I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the pre-installed and front bolts. Back here on the tailgate side, you leave all 3 of those loose for right now. As you're tightening these, you need to make sure this stays nice and level with the rail here. And later on, when you put on the side panels, if they do not sit flat and correctly, then it's probably because these were tightened crooked. Bolt heads are 3/8, and then the nuts an 11mm fits. So I tightened these down so they're kind of snug, and now I'm able to adjust this without it flopping around, and it looks pretty good to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these down all the way. So now that I have all 3 tight on the front and the 2 in the middle, I'm leaving the rear 3 loose for now per the instructions. I'm gonna go ahead and do this exact same thing on the other side off camera. So next you'll want the bag with the wheels in it, and you're gonna want the 2 smaller wheels and 2 of the bolts that are in there. You're gonna take one of the small wheels and one of the bolts, and you are going to screw it in on this rear tailgate side right here. You'll wanna gently tighten that down. If you use the power tool, use something where you can adjust the torque and put it on a pretty low setting, like in the bottom third of the torque settings. I'm literally just using this to run it down, and then I'm still hand tightening for that final little bit. You do not need a giant crescent wrench, just all of my smaller crescent wrenches are out in the car, and I don't feel like going out there and letting all this cool air I've sucked into the garage out. So I'm gonna use this crescent wrench to just hold this nut on the back so I can just give this a little tightening. The wheel spins freely, but it's on there nice and tight. Again, I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side off camera. So once you have both wheels on, the next step is to take this rear closeout panel and you're gonna attach it to that side with 2 hex head screws. You will want the bag labeled screws, and there's a couple in here that are kind of hard to show you, that are hex head, and then there's a couple that are Allen head. it specifically says to use 2 hex head screws, so I'm gonna pop these out. You take the closeout panel, you'll want this flat section on the bottom and facing in, so it's like this. You'll wanna take one of your screws, and if you look in the bottom here, you have 2 holes. One's a little more oval and bigger. That's the hole you'll wanna screw this into. And keep in mind, when you're screwing this in, you are threading just into the plastic, so do not over tighten this. Be pretty gentle with this one. So before I tighten this down, I'm going to put everything back to flush and level, take this back off the gun, and just gently crank it down with the wrench, or the ratchet, I mean. Make sure everything's kind of squared up and looks nice. So that's pretty decent. I haven't even snugged it all the way yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing to the other side, make sure everything's where I want it and it kind of squares itself up, and then I'll hand tighten these. I got those 2 screws in the back plate tightened down now. The next step is to take the huge plastic thick piece that is the top of the deck and lay it on top of this. You want the ruler side to be facing the tailgate end of this deck. So I'll show you when I flip it over. It's upside down right now, so I can't show you, but there's a spot where a metal roller screws onto it. That just needs to be on the tailgate side. So I'll try and do this nimbly by myself. It's not super heavy, but setting it on that unstable, thin surface there is gonna be hard to do alone. Don't laugh at me. This smooth section here with the 4 screw holes, that's the roller side, so it'll go over here where you put the small wheels. All around the top edges, there are spots for screws to go through, and in the bottom piece, there are little nut zerts in there, so I just made sure pretty much all around that they all line up about, 90%. Everything's pretty good, and it'll kind of straighten out as I add screws to it. To start securing the top, you're gonna wanna grab the MS bolts bag, and you're gonna use 4 of these right now in 4 corners of the top, and they have little triangle markers on the areas that you use these in. I'll show you. In each corner, if you look closely, there is a little triangle mark on the plastic. That's where these bolts are gonna go. So one here, one here, here, and there. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those on there and tighten them down. So now that I have those 4 bolts in, the next step it says is to go back and tighten the 3 bolts that we left loose on each side on the tailgate end, basically the ones for these tie downs. And same as before, when you're tightening the bolts down, you wanna make sure these stay pretty flush and level to the cab, or I'm sorry, not the cab, to the toolbox here, basically this top rail. So when you put on the side panels, everything lays nice and flush and lines up. Now you won't be able to see much with me working in that small area. I'll basically just lay down here and tighten them, so I'm just gonna do that off camera. And then the next step is to take this brace right here, this is a torsion brace it says, and slide it under the front of the tailgate side on the bottom, basically just like this. So if you see the 2 holes on the end, the holes are facing out, and then this flat section is sitting on the ground, and it just pops in there. You can see the box has a little cutout for this to slide into. I think, there we go. I don't think it's gonna match up perfectly because when I slide it in, it gets kind of just kind of sloped, so it's no longer a straight line up top. So I kind of basically just line the holes up with the back hole in the center of the big oval here, and that seems to keep it pretty much straight up and down. And then to install this, just like that rear panel, you're gonna use 2 of those hex head screws from the MS screw bag. These are the last 2 hex heads that are in there. Before I finish tightening this one, I'm gonna go ahead and start the other one just so it's in there. Now I've got everything roughly lined up, just eyeballed so it looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten one of these, double check the alignment, and then tighten the other one if everything's good. This next step's probably the easiest step so far. You're just gonna take these little bars and you're going to stick them in the side. You are only taking these and putting them in one side at the moment. I think you have to kind of angle it as you insert it into the truck bed, and then you can put the other side in. If you look down here, you've got these slots here, here, and up there. 3 on each side. So I'm just gonna slide this in. You wanna make sure it's fully seated, it says. So I'll probably just grab a rubber mallet and just tap it in there until you feel it nice, firm stop. One quick thing I forgot to mention is on the stubbies, you have a little rubber cover on one end and then the other end is just open. The open end is the one that slides into the toolbox. That way you have the outside is just not rough or sharp. With that step done, half of the stubbies in, I'm supposed to lift this up, kind of angle it into the truck bed, and then you'd have that same friend who's gonna help you lift it up at an angle so you can insert the other stubbies and then set it down. I think I'm gonna try it myself. So this will probably be a little hard for you guys to see, but the next step is to take the turnbuckles and make them match in length. So that's harder to do with the longer ones. You have two sizes. You have the short ones, and then you have the longer turnbuckles. The longer ones are for the tailgate side. The short ones are for the cab side. With the long ones, you can see that they're already touching in the center, but this still has a lot of thread stuck out. So kind of loosen both of these real quick. And then you want to take the nut and you want to take it as close to the hook side as you can. So do that for both sides until it stops. I'm going to go ahead and thread this one out some and then completely thread this one in. And then I'm going to count the full turns I take it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to see if that's enough to get this one fully tightened. I'm holding the hook and the center so it can't tighten on me, or move on me, I mean. So let me take this all the way in if I can. So I'm not quite all the way in there, so I'm going to take this a 5th turn around and then see if this can lock in. Okay, so that 5th turn did it. So now what I'm going to do is take this one back out 5 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now those are equal lengths out. This one's like a 1/4 turn off from the hook being flat with this one, so I'm just going to give it that 1/4 turn. So I'm going to leave this alone and do the same thing to the rest of them real quick. Like I said, it's easier with the short ones because once you get the nuts up there, you can tighten these all the way down, and then the thread is still not touching each other inside there, so you can just take it out from there. So I would just, honestly, you could call that even, and then we'll adjust it in a minute to get the correct length. So basically, you want to adjust these evenly like I was doing a minute ago. So when you're adjusting this evenly, you'll want to hold the hooks with one in each hand, and then just turn the center like this. And as you're doing that, it's adjusting them equally. So you just hold the hooks so they don't move, spin the center, that's equal length, and you'll do that until they just fit and are able to hook on. And then you'll take a crescent wrench or a wrench and put it on the center and tighten the center, and that'll tighten them equally too. So I'm going to start with the cab side like you're supposed to. Get both of these on there. Get them just snug. I don't want to tighten one before the other because I don't want to slide this back and forth. I want to kind of keep it as center as possible. So I'm going to get these on, snug them down, and then put the other sides on, and I'll get back with you guys in just a second. When you're taking these turnbuckles, you're going to hook one end to the bed tie down, and then you're going to hook one end in this loop or this circle up top on this tie down. Same thing for the cab side of the toolbox. So while putting on the turnbuckles, I ran into a bit of an issue. I sincerely don't think it's on my end. I think it's on Deck's end, so I'll probably have to stop the install for tonight and contact them, which kind of sucks. But on both sides with this thing pretty much, I would say 99.99% centered, I have both turnbuckles on the cab side. They're the short ones like they should be, equally adjusted, and they're all the way tight, and they're both still loose on each side. I ran up to Lowe's today, and I found these turnbuckles. So once you get those snug down by hand, you'll want to bring a wrench in, and it says to do one complete rotation, so tighten it one more turn. So once you fully tighten down the center of the turnbuckles, you're going to then need to tighten down the locking nuts. That way it can't loosen itself, and you'll kind of need 2 wrenches to do that, one on the actual nut and one to hold the center of the turnbuckle. So for example, you'll need to tighten this. Once that's tight, you'll then bring these guys down, and you will hold this while tightening these, top and bottom. So now that I've got that turnbuckle mess sorted out, the next step is to put on the wingers, which are the panels that go on the 2 sides here. Here are my wingers. I just want to point out, they do have stickers on them that are labeled right and left, so you know if they're driver or passenger side. So here's the left panel. This is the driver side. You just need to slide it down on here. Now all you need to do is remove these storage bin covers. So take this one off, and then the 2 on that side as well. If you look here on the bin lid, it does have a spot for a lock. These are lockable. The front ones are, the rear ones are not. So if you buy the lock kit, or I guess the accessory pack of locks, since they don't include those, you get 2 locks for these bins and then 1 lock for the main drawer. The next step is to use the remaining bolts, which there should be about 12 of them in here, and you're going to attach these wingers down. It is 6 per side. I lied, I looked at the last instruction on that page, and it says if you have the short bed like me, you'll have 2 bolts left, so you'll have 2 left over. Now I'm just going to use the ratchet, and I'm going to do it by feel. So this side's tightened down. I'm going to do the other side off camera. Now we get to install the D-rings. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, they only included 4 out of the 6, which is kind of lame. You'll need the actual D-rings and the bag labeled D-rings, and then you'll need the hardware and the bag labeled D-ring hardware. So here's one of the D-rings, and in the hardware bag you get a small black washer, a large black fender washer, you get one of the bolts, and then you get this little silver spacer. So to start installing these tie downs, you just take the spacer, drop it in there, take the tie down, set it over the spacer, take your bolt with the washer, drop it down in there, and start the threads by hand, and then finish tightening it with a 3/16 Allen head socket. Make sure this can swivel around a little bit. You want it to be able to move, and just give that a good cranking. And that's all there is for doing the tie downs in the 4 corners. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other 3 off camera, and then I'll show you how to do the blanks and the 2 middle sections if you didn't buy the extra tie downs. So you just go ahead and put the big fender washer and the bolt in, and you just tighten this down, and it's basically just covering the hole and helping hold this panel down. So if you were doing a D-ring here, it would look just like the last one. They all look the same. This is just if you're leaving it empty with no D-ring. We are closing out on the finish line here. It is time to build the drawer. So the first thing you're going to do is take the drawer bin and put the front side of it face down like that. That way you have access to the bottom here. You're going to grab the drawer bin hardware bag, and then in that bag you're going to have 2 of these little metal straps. These are called weld straps. And then you're going to take 2 of these 3/4 inch little button head screws here, and we're going to attach these to the bottom of the drawer. Take your weld strap, take one of your screws, stick that through the top here, and you can tighten this into the weld strap like that. And then the other one you would do from inside the drawer here. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. And then start that one by hand too. So they do include an Allen wrench to tighten this down, but we're supposed to leave them loose for now, so I'm not going to tighten them yet. And then also, there's one of these for each side, so I'm going to go ahead and loosely put on the one on the other side off camera. I've got the weld strips on both ends now, loosely, not tightened down yet. The next step is to grab this huge aluminum tray, which is the bottom of the drawer, and lay it down, and we're going to attach that front of the drawer bin onto there. If you look up here, there are no holes. On the bottom, if I can lift this up and show you, this is kind of heavy. There are 4 holes on the bottom down there. The side with the 4 holes is the tailgate end, so this will attach to the tailgate end with the 4 holes. So on the bottom of the bin here, you'll see the 4 holes that need to line up with those, and then you kind of have these little tabs. Those need to go under the drawer, and these little aluminum weld strips will slide into the aluminum rails on the side. So I'm going to pick this up, and I'm going to scoot it onto here, lining this weld strip up into this. I'm going to line up the other side now and slide it in. And then I'm going to push this forward and making sure those tabs that are down on the bottom go under the drawer. I got that. It was kind of a pain. It probably would have been a lot easier if I had someone on the back to kind of keep the drawer from sliding. But I got the tabs under there now. Just a little awkward to do by yourself. You want to make sure you get this faceplate seated all the way up against that aluminum. So kind of right here, you want to make sure on both sides this is sitting all the way up. And then if you kind of look down in here, you want to make sure this is pretty flush. Once you have that seated all the way, you can go ahead and tighten the 2 screws on each side for those weld strips to tighten it in the C-channel. So after you tighten the 4 bolts for the weld straps, it says to have this up on an elevated flat surface, and then you put these 4 1-inch long screws that were in a bag from way earlier, and you take those and screw them in from the bottom up. You're not supposed to turn this drawer or stand it up while you're screwing it in because it can tweak the alignment. So it's supposed to be on a flat elevated surface so you can just do it from underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and screw these in. I'm going to finish those with this Allen wrench they included, just so I make sure I don't over tighten. So now we're back into the drawer bin hardware bag. We're going to take 5 of these little hex head guys out, and we're going to slide them inside the rail here. We're going to do 5 on this side and then 5 on the other side. This process is going to be identical for the left and right side. So what you're going to need is this little guy. This is what they call the high side, and then you're going to need this guy as well. This is what they call the wheel bracket. And like I said, there's 1 of these for each side, so they are side specific, so pay attention to that. For the left side, you're going to want this flat angle facing down with this really sharp point coming out of the back. And then for the wheel bracket on the left side, you're going to want that flat section down with it mating up basically just like that, so you can tell which side goes over here. The first thing we're going to do is connect the high side to the wheel bracket. And another thing to note is this high side will be on the inside of the drawer. The wheel bracket will be on the outside of the high side. So it'll look like this. The hardware you're going to use for this will again be inside the drawer bin hardware bag. And it is these little, I think they're 1/2 inch, the little button head bolts. And then you're going to use nuts on the outside of that as well. The bolt head will come from the inside of the drawer, the nut will be on the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and attach these together, and that'll be with 2 of these bolts. So again, keeping the high side on the inside, you just line up these 2 holes back here, stick 1 of the bolts through, put a nut on the outside, take the other bolt, stick it through the other hole, take a nut, put that one on as well. So you are supposed to leave these 2 nuts and bolts loose for now, and then you will pick this up and you will set it on the channel, lining up with the hardware you slid in there earlier. You'll want this to press firmly up against the drawer here, so just kind of line up the bolts and get it as far forward as you can. Once you have all the bolts in the holes and lined up, you can put nuts on them and tighten it down, and as you're tightening it down, you'll want to make sure you have this whole piece pushed firmly up against the drawer. I held it pressed firmly up against the drawer while I tightened that front nut, so now it's kind of holding itself. I can easily put the rest of these on. So I'm just going down the line and tightening all these nuts while I'm kind of keeping everything flush as I can with the side. I have both sides completely tightened down to the rail. I have not tightened these little side plates together yet because it hasn't told me to. I'm still leaving them loose. So now we're going to take the back plate, and you can kind of see this big curled lip on the bottom. That's gonna go under the aluminum and kind of hook, and you're gonna bring it up around the back like this, and you're gonna use the last 4 nuts and bolts you have in the drawer bin hardware bag, and you're gonna secure it with 4 bolts through here, 2 on this side and 2 on this side. And the bolt will be going through from the inside to the out, so on the very back will be the nut. I'm just kind of holding it with my leg and my body, and I'm gonna get a nut in on each side. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten all 4 of these down first, and when those are tight, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten these 4 on the sides, 2 on each side. I've got the back plate all bolted down, I got the sides all bolted down, everything's tight now. Next step is to take the bag with the wheel stops in it and clip them on right here on both sides. These are left and right specific, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab them out and show you where they're labeled. So here is the wheel stop for the right side. On the back of it, it's got a big R. And if you look at it, you've got this bottom side with the big opening. That is the bottom. This is my right side. That big opening goes down, and I'm just gonna slide the clip in and one-hand this, I hope. Ugh. All right. I'm gonna need 2 hands to do it so I don't break the plastic, but that's all you do. Do that for the left and right side. Both of those are clipped in now. Now we're getting to the fun part. I gotta screw on the wheels. These are not left to right specific. You just have 2 wheels, and they screw on the back side from the outside. So let me do this with one hand. They're in the bag labeled wheels, but there's only 2 wheels left. So take the big bolt, stick it through the wheel like that, and then you just thread it on. A little hard with one hand. And then you tighten that down with a 7/32 hex head. And I'm just gonna do that for both sides real quick. Now it's time to stick the drawer mat back in. This is a big, thick rubber mat. Next step is to actually put the drawer in. So I'm gonna set you guys off to the side, see if I can lift this in by myself. If I'm not a man, I'll go inside and ask my fiance to help me. Let's try and do it ourselves. This is kind of cheating, but I'm gonna have to ask for help. I do not want to tear up my tailgate and scratch it up all bad. Plus, when you're putting it in, you have to lift up the front at an angle like this to slide everything in. And that, I'm gonna ask for help. There it is. So keep going. Perfect. Alright, well that actually wasn't too bad. I definitely didn't ask for help. Next step is to install the nice stainless steel roller. It just goes right here on the edge, and then you'll use these final 4 screws that you have to install it. So now you'd make sure the drawer is centered still, and if it is, you would go ahead and tighten your turnbuckles. Mine looks pretty good, so I'm going to tighten those 2 turnbuckles down off camera. All 4 turnbuckles are now tightened down completely. The next step would be, if you had locks, you would install the locks. I did order locks because they're not provided, like I mentioned before. They haven't come yet. So in the meantime, I'm gonna stick these plugs in that come with it. So if you didn't order locks, you would also just go ahead and put plugs in now. So one here for the drawer, and then one up top for each of the bigger side pocket bins. So one nice thing that helps the price a little bit is that they include a lot of storage boxes with this. So for the side panels, they give you 2 of these shallow bins, and then they give you 2 of these deep bins. So let's go ahead and pop those in. So now you have pretty good storage here. Then I can just pop the lid back on. So the install is really done, but I wanted to show you the 3 other bins that could go into the drawer that they included. I do kind of like these. I don't know how beefy or how watertight they are, but it has a carrying handle that you can lift up on, which is nice. And then this is kind of a cool thing. I'll show you it again once I put it in the drawer. But to open this, say you have this in your drawer and it's tucked in there, stuff all around it. You want to get in the box, but you don't want to take the whole box out. They're made to open from the top. So you just squeeze this handle and it opens right up. And then you can get to your storage. They do have little O-rings in here, so they should be watertight. And then, well, it's got a top-heavy lid, but then you got basically a little tackle box almost. So you got a little top organizer, and then you got the bottom storage, and then it just closes up. Over here, we have basically that, but bigger. Same thing, you have a carrying handle. You have another carrying handle here if you want to carry it like a briefcase. And then it opens from the top as well. Just squeeze that. Lifts up, you got a little top organizer, and then you got the inside storage again. And then finally, if you come over here, they gave us this kind of real thin plastic tote. It's not nearly as nice as the other two. I don't think it has an O-ring. No, it doesn't have any O-ring. It's just kind of a cheap little tote you'd buy from like Walmart or something, except it matches and says decked on it. You can buy more of these totes. They have different sizes, ones that aren't included in this, and then they have more of the ones you have here. So if you really like this box and want like 2 or 3 more to fit in there, you can get more of them. I'm gonna take them up, put them in there real quick and kind of show you guys how much space is in there, how much space is left over, and just how cool it is with those open from the top when you can pull the drawer open. I really, really, really like that it has that lockout feature right there, because I'm kind of sloped downhill right now, and it'll lock it and hold it open. And then if you just give it that little pull, it'll close itself. Pretty nice setup. So obviously you could set this up in a bunch of different ways. Let me bring you guys over here so you can take a look. But with these 3 big totes in there, I've got those 2 large ones on that side. You got a little bit of space up here still. And then I've got the smaller one over here. You have a ton of space back there. You basically still have this whole side open. And this is something I don't think I showed you guys earlier that I probably should have. In the front here, you basically have this little wall and you can keep a bunch of smaller loose stuff up in here without it getting lost in the main drawer. But again, say that you have a bunch of stuff in here, there's stuff here, it's crammed full. If you move something out, maybe more stuff will fall in there, or you just don't want the hassle of moving it out, you can just really quick, boom, open that up. Now, it would have been smart to turn that the other way for the example, but I'm not smart. So, I really like the top opening feature. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this first major mod install on my Gladiator. I hope it helped you out. If you did enjoy the video, drop me a comment down below. Tell me what you think of the deck system, and like the video if you can. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please think about subscribing. I'm really trying to hit 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I think I'm at like 2,300 right now, so still a little ways to go. I'm gonna be doing some cooler videos with the Gladiator. I'm taking it out to Colorado in a few weeks. I'm gonna do some trails out there in the stock Gladiator Rubicon, so you can kind of see what that does. I'm not gonna tear it up too bad, but it should be a good little video. I'm gonna have more mods coming for that thing soon too, so watch out for those videos. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.